In my line of work, which is cleaning, I am privileged to work with a very specific group of people, those in addiction recovery. And there are many things that working with them has taught me. The brokenness of man, the struggle of addiction, patience, how to listen, the physical, mental, and spiritual trauma that such addiction causes, and the fact that it can actually kill you if you are if you never get to that place where you understand the need to get out. um, and whether we like to admit it or not, all of humanity suffers from addiction. Every single person on the planet has an addiction, and that addiction is sin. Sin is anything that we give ourselves to that takes precedence over our relationship with God. We chose sin over God when we walked away from Him in the garden, when we decided we knew what was better. And from that moment, we've been trying to recover from the effects of our addiction ourselves. That is not something that God ever intended for us. He knows that we're not capable, because in Jeremiah 17:9 it says the heart is more deceitful than anything else and incurable. Who can understand it? That right there lets me know that there's nothing inside of me capable of producing anything good that can aid in my recovery. Period. Period. And Romans 5:8 says that, but God proves His own love for us in that, well, while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. It doesn't matter what addiction you're facing. I've had one myself. Not alcohol, not drugs. It was something entirely different that I wasn't even aware of, and it may not seem like a big deal, but it definitely left me in a place of hopelessness, despair, worthlessness, depression, suicidal ideations, and a number of other things. But the one thing that the Lord continuously reminds me of is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten, or His one and only Son, that whosoever, anyone, believes in Him should not perish but have everlasting life. God never said we wouldn't have struggles. Jesus never promised when He came and after He rose from the dead. He never promised we wouldn't have struggles. But His promise to us is eternal, and it is spiritual, because we're going to have physical problems. We're going to have mental trauma. We're going to have struggles that we face. And He never promised us that the blessings we would have would be physical in nature, financial in nature, or anything like that. But He did promise us an eternal hope and an eternal presence with Him. So for those of us facing an actual addiction, whether it's to food, whether it's to gambling, whether it's to sex, whether it's to drugs, whatever it is, all of those things are separate us from God. Even if there are healthy things that can also become an addiction, like being going to the gym. I know people who go 4 times a day. That's an addiction, and it's really not healthy. There are people who work in the church, and those things actually take precedence over their relationship with God. When that is the case, that becomes sin, it becomes idolatry, and it is an addiction. So everything that we have on this planet is meant to be good for us when we understand its relevance and its place in our lives. But if we forget that God is first and it is only Him who can help us maintain balance and overcome recovery, then we're never gonna need Him, and we're never gonna get to where we need to be. Every one of us, every addict, has gotten to the point where he says or she says, I know this is not where I'm supposed to be. I cannot take it anymore. I cannot do this by myself. And it's the same thing with Jesus Christ and becoming a believer and a follower of Christ. We can do nothing. John 15:5 says that we can do nothing apart from Him. And it's absolutely true. Assuming that you can live life without the help and the encouragement and the support of other people is, you're never going to make it. And the same is true of a recovering addict. You cannot recover by yourself. And recovery is kind of like a reclaim. You're reclaiming that sober soberness that you used to have. The Bible talks about soberness a lot, being sober of mind and being vigilant and being there. But you're reclaiming that part of your life, and that's what Jesus does when he reconciles us. He reclaims us for himself, to himself, in himself, to work for him and to allow him to work through us. And that's the only way we can fully recover from any physical or mental or substance abuse. And it's also the only way that we can recover from sin, is to submit to his authority and letting him work through us. Luke 9:23 says if we want to follow him, we have to deny ourselves, take up our cross, and follow him. And that's pretty much what that is dying to any desire that I have, any sin, anything that I wish to put first in my life, anything that's my go, whatever my go-to is, that's my addiction. That's my idol. That's my God. And whatever that is, he said, you have to deny that and follow me. Denial is not something we can do on our own. Acceptance is not something we can do on our own. And certainly submitting is not something that we can do on our own. But I promise you, as a recovering addict, I choose to submit my life to Jesus on a moment-by-moment basis and let him work in me. And that is what it's about. And those eternal consequences are far more than I could ever hope for. I will not see many of the things that he's promised me here, but when I'm gone, when this body is dead, my soul will be with him, and I'll have the promise of eternal healing, eternal recovery, eternal hope, and an eternal presence with him. So I just want to encourage you today that you have help in recovery. Your addiction is real. It's daily. It's moment by moment. But you also have someone who is there and ready to help you. Just look for the truth, and he will set you free.